God damn it. What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and I just got done watching Season 9, Episode 4 of The Flash. I was starting to think after last week, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm just being an asshole. Maybe I'm not giving this show, the final season of The Flash, the final season of the Arrowverse, enough credit. Maybe I'm not realizing what good that could be going on here, but fuck. This episode sucked. It did. It sucked. It was so bad for so many reasons. It's titled The Mask of the Red Death, Part 1. Oh joy, I can't wait for part 2, 3, 4, 5, however many parts we decide to take this. So at the very beginning of the first scene, we see the evil Batwoman, Red Death, talking to Mark. And it pains me to think that out of all of the classic villains that have been on The Flash, even some of the not so good ones, it's crazy that they decided to go with this as the final villain. I mean, somebody told me that it's actually not the final villain, that there will be more stuff coming later, but I don't know, man. We're going to 5 episodes deep into the season, and it doesn't seem like we're doing anything else. If we do get something else, it's just gonna have to be forced and probably even worse than the bullshit that we're getting here. The next scene, we see Barry and Iris talking together. And I wanted to mention this scene especially because as they're talking to each other and as they're trying to figure out who Red Death is and what Red Death is all about, why Red Death is trying to use the speed treadmill and whatever the fuck, they make reference to a couple of other characters that have done similar things or have been affected by the Speed Force, which is what that's his theory on how this speedster got their speed and why they have so much hatred for the Flash. And it actually makes sense. They got their speed from the Speed Force. They chose whoever this person is as an avatar, and the Speed Force's hate for Barry is transferred to this person. It actually is a decent hunch. But as they're conversating, when they mention a character by name from the past, they flash to a quick cut, to a quick moment of the character that they're talking about. Like that lady that got Speed Force, was it last season or the season before? I don't remember. But she became a speedster for like an episode. They showed her for a second, and I thought to myself, well, I could shit on this more, but I actually didn't remember her name. So when they mentioned her name, I didn't know who they were talking about. So they showed us. And then he mentions how he feels responsible for Earbot Thawne dying last season. And then they show Reverse Flash dying last season. And I'm like, alright guys, you didn't have to fucking show that. Jesus, it puts it into more perspective how low common denominator that the showrunner and that these people that run this show think about the audience, about how dumb we must be, that, oh, they're not going to remember Reverse Flash. Or they're not going to remember what we did with Reverse Flash last season. So let's just show that. Unnecessary. Very dumb. You can just make a reference to a past season or to last year especially, and you don't have to show us what the hell you're talking about. Joe and Cecile, first of all, I knew that they had a daughter, but I didn't realize that their daughter was that fucking big. Like, that she grew that much. I don't know how old she is, but I see that little girl, and this is the first time that we've seen this actress play their daughter, so it was very jarring and sort of like, wait, their baby's this old now already? No offense, but the little girl wasn't that great of an actress. And I don't want to shit on child actors, I don't, but she just a little awkward at points, especially later on in the episode where she gets put in danger and there's just no fear in her face at all. Not her fault. It was whoever casted her, the casting director's fault, or maybe even the director themselves not directing her to look more afraid, look more like she's in danger, not just standing there like this is another fucking walk in the park. Anyways, Joe of course, because we have to force some conflict. This would not be a CW show if we didn't have forced, unnecessary conflict going on. So he left a paper, this pamphlet or whatever, of this open house or this realtor because he's looking at houses. He wants to buy a house. He said that a couple episodes ago. Of course, Cecile sees this and freaks out because she's like, "You've already gone to see a house before we even truly talked about it," which is odd because he did mention it to her a couple episodes ago. So did they not continue the conversation? Is it because it didn't happen on screen? Nothing else ever came of that conversation? She was just like, we'll talk about it later. And then she leaves, and then she gets mad that he went and actually made steps to continue on what he already told you. Either way, it wasn't great for Joe to do that kind of sort of behind your back. He's like, well, yeah, this place won't be on the market for long. She gets mad again. Later on, they're forced to have a conversation about it because the power in the whole fucking city goes out. And Joe says something very interesting. Because I was wondering too, like, why is he so gung-ho on leaving? Is it just for this force thing? But when he mentions that, man, when I think about everything that my own other kids have gone through, Iris and Wally, and how dangerous Central City is really fucking dangerous. Probably even more dangerous than Star City because at least they didn't have to deal with villains with powers as much. And so he said, I don't want my daughter to be in constant danger all the time. I don't want her to have to be freaking out in her room because one of us is going to die or some villain's going to take over the world or take over this particular city because every superpowered villain only strikes fear in Central City. That made sense. That made me go, you know what, Joe? That's a great fucking idea. A great point. You're right. Let's get the hell out of here. Cecile even agrees, especially later on, some explosion or some shit happens, and the window shatters, and the glass is coming towards the daughter. And because the daughter didn't look afraid, I was just like, well, I don't really. Sounds fucked up, but I don't really care right now, so I don't have suspense. Cecile apparently has. Does she have telekinesis, or does she have? Is she Carrie now? I mean, I knew that she could read minds, and I admit they could have already established that Cecile is able to move objects with her mind. It's fully possible that we have established that, and I just don't remember it. It just seemed weird. It came out of nowhere, and I don't know why Cecile is so harped on being this heroic character. I like the actress of Cecile. I do. I think she's a good actress. I like her enthusiasm and her energy that she brings to her scenes. Definitely, this is not me shitting on her. I just don't get the writing of her. Like, she can't just be a normal character. She just can't be a wife and a mother that's dealing with more human and normal issues. I don't think every side character has to be dealing with, I'm a hero, I'm a superhero, I have powers, I have abilities, I can help people. It's not as special and it's not as interesting when everybody in the goddamn team can do all great things. Anyways, Red Death goes out. There's a scene where Red Death goes out in the middle of like public, and the shot of the crowd running away and dispersing felt so low budget and felt so cheap and felt so Power Rangers. I've mentioned this before, how much the Flash has become the Power Rangers, like the 1990s Power Rangers. And don't get me wrong, I loved that as a kid, and I know that there are still Power Ranger shows out there, but you can tell that these shows are made on a certain level budget and are made with a certain level of costuming and a certain level of effects and certain level of acting. And these CW shows, these Arrowverse shows, feel like they've gone to that level. That shot is a case in point. And then Red Death is just like, I'm waiting, Barry, or no, Barry. I think she just said Flash. Flash shows up without a plan, without any backup, without anything in mind, and what a shock. Another fucking Joe Schmo guy comes out from behind Red Death. Again, apparently this is a character or a villain from past seasons. I'm not denying that this person exists or that this person did something, but they looked so generic, and they probably did not do anything all that special in the previous episodes that they were in, that I was just like, who is this fucking guy? He made his eyes yellow, and that did something to Barry's eyes, and he just crumbled down. I don't know what he did to him. I guess he made him weak. I don't know. That was weird how he just came out of nowhere behind her. And it's like they're trying to create their own Sinister Six for the Flash, but they're using some of the lamest and some of the dumbest and some of the most forgettable villains that this show has ever had. They're not using the more famous ones. They're not using the coolest ones, the ones that we would actually freak out. Like, imagine if it was a cool villain from the past, or one of the better actors that left a mark, left an impression, that showed up, and we were like, oh shit, it's so and so. But no, it was just generic bad guy number 75. I'm sorry if you freaked out and loved whoever the hell that villain was, but it did nothing for me. So you cut to Barry being locked up and chained up. And I thought, oh great, Barry's captured. Oh, we've seen this and been there 1,000 times. And Barry has a conversation with Red Death, and it wasn't until, like, whoever directed this did a bad job of making Red Death look intimidating because of the way that the angle of the camera was, and the way how it was a wide shot, so you can clearly see that Red Death is way shorter than Barry Allen. And just because it's a woman doesn't mean that, like, she can't be taller or more imposing. The suit itself could make her look bigger, make her look like, oh shit, this is something to be feared. I even thought it was interesting that Barry kept saying he. He thought Red Death was a he, because usually it is a he. Usually most of his masked villains are he's. So yeah, it shouldn't have been obvious that it was a woman to Barry. And there's a moment where Red Death takes off the helmet to reveal that there's nobody inside of the outfit, and they tried to explain that it's a smarter or more powerful speedster than we've ever seen before. That this Red Death is not actually connected to the Speed Force and actually got their artificial speed somewhere else. The character explained it later on, but it's silly. It's silly to see the headless suit of Red Death talking to Barry and being like, I am way more powerful than you expect. It's supposed to be intense. I'm supposed to be scared. I'm supposed to say, oh shit, this villain's next level. And I did not feel that. I did not have that type of emotion. I just thought that looked really dumb and silly. So we cut to Ryan Wilder, the second Batwoman from the Batwoman show. Now, I stopped watching Batwoman after like the first or second episode of season 2. So I saw the introduction of Ryan Wilder, that character. I saw how they kind of sort of got rid of Ruby Rose, but I didn't stick with the show. I don't know what came of the show, especially in their final season and where Ryan Wilder left off. But you see the actress that played Ryan Wilder. First of all, she's pretty hot. I'm just going to throw that out there. She looked pretty good. I'm also digging the white stripe, almost like Rogue, in her hair. And it was clear that she was lying to Iris. I am so glad at least Iris was smart enough to catch all of her lies and to pull a gun on her and say, like, what the fuck's going on? You're full of shit. Like, I don't even really know you, Ryan. So why are you here? I was thinking the same thing. And Ryan goes into this whole spiel about how she comes from another timeline. And in her timeline, her and Iris are best friends. And on her timeline, Flash didn't trust her. And so she went off and used tech from her villains and created her own speedster suit. Somehow created her own speedster powers. Flash didn't like that. And in the chaos, she tried to stop her Flash. She said her Flash became a villain. It just seemed very convoluted and very bullshit. Iris sort of even said, I don't believe you, but they also didn't say that she was lying. So I do feel like that's her story. It just sounds really dumb. And I don't know how we explain where the real Ryan Wilder, or at least our version of Ryan Wilder, went. I guess, who gives a shit, who gives a fuck? I don't know. It's odd. I said this last week, and I'll say it again. It's odd that this is the version. I know they don't have access CW. They're not allowed to use Bruce Wayne like how the character of Red Death is in the comics, an evil version of Bruce Wayne. And I know we've never had a Bruce Wayne, so you could argue that that wouldn't be as impactful. But if you did have Bruce Wayne, any actor just cast as Bruce Wayne, and you kind of say that this is our first Bruce Wayne of the Arrowverse, that would be a big deal, just in its own. But even if you couldn't do that, I said, why aren't we doing Oliver Queen? Why aren't we having an evil Oliver Queen who at least he has a connection to Barry? He was really good friends and partners and stable mates with Barry, and so it would have more emotional stakes. It would be more of a shock, especially if he pulls his mask off and holy shit, Stephen Amell. But they're using a character that has really meant nothing to the Flash and nothing really to the Arrowverse. If you think about it, the Batwoman show was so on its island, so secluded all the way there in the corner that who paid attention to it? Nothing against the actress that played or plays Ryan Wilder. I like the actress fine. There was a couple scenes with her where I thought she did decent, especially where she's talking to Iris and she's talking about how her Iris accidentally died by her hand, but she's shedding a tear and I was like, okay, she's giving a decent performance with this horrible material, no doubt. And then you have the moment that I could not believe this show did this. There is 5% of me that said, holy shit, because Ryan Wilder, as she was re-putting on her Red Death outfit after she attacks Iris, she says, you want to get nuts? And then all of her Red Death outfit comes on her like she's Iron Man, and she says, come on, let's get nuts. And there's 5% of me that thinks, holy shit, they quoted Michael Keaton from Batman 89. I love Batman 89. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. And I love how random and weird that moment when Michael Keaton says, you want to get nuts? It's so out of nowhere, and it feels like an improvised Michael Keaton line. So it's become legendary. It's become cult status of true fans get it. But when they did it, not only did it come off super lame, super cheesy, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because I always talk about how this show feels like it's made for 12-year-olds, especially now, like right here, right now. This show, like I said, Power Rangers, it feels like it's for a really young audience. But you throw in a line like that, a reference to Michael Keaton's Batman, that's for people my age. That's for people who are in their 30s and for whatever dumbass reason we're still watching shows like this. And it doesn't work. The tone of these shows, the bad level of writing that this show has. You can't throw out a reference like that and expect it to be cool when everything else surrounding it sucks. I wish this show was better. I wish this season was better so that moment could have been cooler. Because I don't take a quote like that lightly, a reference like that lightly. Michael Keaton's Batman, that's my shit, all right? So we see Mark at the last second decides to turn on the bad guys, and he helps Barry. Barry was on the speed, treadmill, and it was about to give Batwoman the power she wanted, but then Mark stopped it, and Mark took out Batwoman with the energy. And then the bad guys, the bad acting, when he was like, where do you think you're going? I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, my God. And they're about to be taken out. Mark says, hey, guys, get out of here. And he goes to fight the bad guys. And then Team Flash somehow... So Chester and Allegra, I'm going to go through this really quick. They have the bright idea to send out a signal because the power in the city went out. They sent out a signal to contact the bad guys or the ex-criminals, the rogues characters that Flash teamed with last week. It just so happens that it's the same exact characters that we saw last week. Nobody different answered the call. Nobody different heard the signal. It happened to be the same exact 3 ex-criminals that we saw last week. And they show up and Allegra is somehow able to teleport with her gloves. And I know that she's probably done this before, but why is it that the teleporting thing only comes in handy when the script requires it? They never ever use the teleporting thing, at least not any time recent that I can remember. So they show up, they go to grab Barry. Barry's pissed because he wants to grab Mark and save Mark because Mark saved him. But they say, fuck it, we're going to go. We're going to bounce. So they leave. Barry's pissed. Fake Caitlin shows up. What's her name? Keon? The dumb third personality. Fake Caitlin hears that Mark has potentially died. We didn't see Mark die, so I don't buy that he died. If they didn't show his death, and especially with this show, even if you do see them die, chances are they will be back. So I don't think Mark's dead. I think we'll see that they have him chained up and captured because nobody ever dies. Nobody kills anybody, at least not on screen. Everyone either dies off screen or they're going to be held captive for a dumb reason. And so fake Caitlin gets mad, even though fake Caitlin didn't know Mark, didn't have a real relationship with Mark. She didn't care about Mark. She even turned on Mark to be her own personality. So, and Mark had just turned on them. The rogues, the ex-criminals were saying, why are we going to risk our lives to save this guy when he just turned on us like last week? And Barry's like, we don't leave one of our own. This is terrible writing. Awful, awful bullshit writing. Joe decides at the last second to just stay in Central City. So we had all of that drama and all of that back and forth for no reason because Joe just changed his mind because Cecile was being a hero. And he wants his daughter to be able to grow up, by golly, and be a hero herself. Bullshit. And the last scene, my God, I was sort of talking up the actress that plays Ryan Wilder, Batwoman, and saying that she had a couple of decent acting scenes earlier. But that last scene where she's shouting and she's angry that Flash stopped her once again and she's like, I'm gonna take over the city and I'm gonna do it. And she's screaming and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is dog shit. This is the worst acting. It's such a, like, I was complimenting her and then now it's like, this is the horrible, horrible bullshit. Again, not her fault. She was clearly written and directed to be that way. But fuck, that did not do her any favors. This show is sucking. This show is sucking hard. The final season, fuck off. You don't care. You don't care about the fans. You don't even care about people who stuck in there and hung with you out of loyalty, dumb loyalty, because of how good those first two seasons were. This show sucks, man, and I'm wasting my time, and I'm going to keep watching it because what the fuck else do I have to do? And I'm always going to have that curiosity factor of how much worse is it going to get? Ladies and gentlemen, we will find out very soon. So guys, let me know in the comments below what did you think of this episode, how bad you think it was as well. What do you think of this whole Batwoman, evil Batwoman, bullshit Red Death? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.
Oh yeah, today I feel Super Bowl. Feel it in your mind, you lose control. Feel it in your breast, and you super soul. I don't say it.